Hello everybody, it's Phil the Miniature Model Maker coming to you with the final build guide for Gundam Artifact Phase 5. We're doing Model 26, the Double Zeta Gundam. First, for people who are seeing this for the first time, these build guides usually run between an hour and a half and 2 hours, sometimes even longer. If it's longer than 2 hours, I tend to break it up into parts. But this is a long form, part by part by part guide of blind build, how to go through and build your artifacts step by step, talking about pain points, what modifications you need to make in to the parts themselves, and what potential modifications you might need to make to build order in order to have the least amount of trouble for it. And this particular build guide is going to be different from the others that I have done, such as this. I did these up to tabletop standard, meaning I didn't go through, fill gaps, or pay much attention to anything other than basic mold line removal and cleaning when I did the parts. This kit, because the duplicate I got for it is the special color, I went through and did scribing and put more effort and detail into these parts. So this may end up being a two-part video because I'm going to have to glue things and let it sit and clean parts while I'm going through. Also, this is the first build guide where I'll be using both Tamiya Extra Thin Cement and then this black cyanoacrylate, the rubberized cyanoacrylate. I'm using this as a gap filler. So we're going to have a bit of an experiment and see how this goes. Um, Anything else? So I have not done an initial build of this. I've only gone through, cleaned all the parts up, kind of looked at what pain points there could be where I might need to put something on later in the build. And I may or may not do a full final assembly for this. Uh, I should say a permanent full final assembly for this, because it is the only paintable one that I've got. So I may just stick things together as best I can for the thumbnail and then come back later and paint it in subassembly. We'll see. I saw a new type still has these available, this particular one available like $7, so I might grab another one. We'll see. And as of time of filming, which is currently September 28th, 2025, Big Bad Toy Store still has their 10-piece box of Phase 5 available. So that means you get two of each of the O, the Zaku Cannon, the Hyakushiki, the Silver Bullet Suppressor, and the Double Zeta. So, with that out of the way, Mac is here with us. Mac, the Miniature Model Maker Mascot Mecha. He's here, but he's going to be sitting up here as moral support. So the first thing I did for this build, as I do for any build recently, take my little cups. I got these sold as Jello Shot Jello Shot cups off Amazon. There's a ton of them. They're really cheap. And I went through, cleaned the parts, and sorted them out into the various stages. That helps keep things organized and is especially important for these Phase 5 because they're so freaking tiny. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of little bits in these. Okay. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, and first thing to note is on these things, part 33 disassembly, on both of the legs, I did do these a bit, and you're going to need to file these areas down, or else you're going to have a pretty decent gap here. So that's your first point if you're going through and doing a detail build, is get your file and take care of that. And here we have part 45 and then part 41. Try as I might, I was not able to get the gap here. How does this go? Like so, like so, and you go like so. Okay, so when you're looking at it, there's this big peg in the middle, and that goes into this little cutout right here. I hope I didn't screw these parts up. No, I didn't. Okay. Try as I might, I was not able to get this to sit flush. So this is the first part I'm actually going to use the cyanoacrylate on. And the good thing about this is that it doesn't cure immediately like most superglues do. Please tell me you're okay. So you can actually use it a bit like a paint. Apparently it needs to be shaken. Wow. Okay. So this has been sitting for a bit. I'm going to put it on the vortex mixer real quick. Although I said use it like a paint, don't use brushes because it is still cyanoacrylate glue. Use a toothpick, but you can kind of brush it on with a toothpick like it's a paint. It maintains that same viscosity and everything. So first thing I'm going to do again, because it is super glue, going to check my dry fit, and we're in good shape. Okay, that's pretty easy to get on. I wanted to check that because, oh golly. Okay, let's get the glove out. No, we're going to do something different. I'm holding it here, and we're probably going to get kitty contributions, meaning cat hair, and I'm just going to spread it over the whole part. Especially along the edges, because we do want that gap filling property. And the reason I'm doing this first is to give it time to cure. And it actually takes a while. I've tried this previously. Okay, and now my cutout is here. So you go there. And push down. Oop, and I got a little bit somewhere, so I grab my sacrificial brush. Just get it out of the way. Get it out of there. And This part, you're not going to see anything except this little tiny bit right here. Everything else is going to get covered up. So far, that's pretty good. Hopefully you can see it all right. Didn't get everywhere. It didn't splooge out a whole lot. It's filled the gaps. And if I need to go back through, like right here, I can. And then I can just come back through later on with a tool and clean that out. So this is the level of effort I would take if I were doing a display piece. So that's what I'm saying by detail build for display. Okay, that's done. Now the first, looking at our orders of assembly here, part 40 goes up into here. And then we build our foot. And then part 42 goes there as well. We can, let's take a look and see, why is that 5 and then 6? 6 is putting these on. So that's the last, because they're the shrouds that go over. But why is 42? And that's you at that point in the build. I don't know. And this one is pretty good. Pretty good is not quite good enough. So we're going to use our CA on this too. This is where it's going to get kind of cranky. You can see that's still nice and usable. Even after it's been sitting there for a bit. And remind you guys, this is my first time using this like this. So you're going to see mistakes, you're going to see everything, warts and all, which I think is most helpful for learning. Okay, so that's pretty good too. Maybe I put a little bit too much on there, but I'm not super duper concerned. What's next? Part 40 into here. Alright, because there's a peg that goes into the foot, we can leave the foot off to paint. That's a good thing. But if we wanted to paint the internals for it ahead of time, I would just leave it like this. This would be the subassembly I would use. Clean it all up, paint the internals along with these other parts here. The foot, because they go on in kind of weird ways, I would paint them separately. Again, for display level painting. We're not going to do display level painting on this. So we're going to go ahead and grab our Tamiya. Get a nice dollop of that in there. And stick it in. Good, and that fits very nicely. So we'll leave that to cure and work on our foot. So we have one parts 37 and 36 on either side. And they are oriented like so. And there's a tab and slot here. And it goes all the way through, so I'm going to guess that we probably have a situation where if we don't trim these pegs down, you could potentially push the other one out. So that's all we need to do. Get our cement on there. I say all we need to do, but you know that's never all. There. Okay, and we'll do the same. Push, push, get a little bit of glue splooge going out the sides, and we're set. That's a nice piece. All right, and then parts 43 and 44 are these little guys, and their vent looks like it goes forward. So we'll just, and again, I think I've already sanded these down, so I'm going to put my cement there and there, making sure not to put too much down. We don't want to flood it. But a little bit of cement can help to lubricate the part. Bloop. Is that right? That does not look right. This is why it's smart, if you are doing it, to do it part by part by part. And go through, prep each part, and glue each part individually. There we go. So it's sitting just like that with this little divot, this cutout near the heel. We'll put just a little tiny bit more there. There we are. And this black stuff you see, that's my normal ink mix that I've used to mark areas I have scribed out. So foot done, internal done. These are already done. Let's take a look and see how we're doing here. That's still a little... we're good enough. I'm just going to take my sanding stick here. Sand that down a bit. That's pretty good, but we can do better. But before we do, let's try dry fitting our other parts onto this. And looking at it, these go towards the rear, so they align with this, don't they? Nope. This goes forward. So there we are. Alright, so if you wanted to and had the tools, you could use something like a spin blade to get in there and clean up fairly easily, which is what I'm going to do, actually. So we will take our trusty Tamiya cement, put a liberal amount on these pegs, and then move it here around. This will help lubricate our part. Here we are. And put that in. Presto. Done. If I wanted to do more gap filling or cleaning, I could, but just for an example, I'm going to grab the 2.0 mil, 2 mil spin blade. Show you what I mean by just going through and cleaning it out. All you do is scraping the plastic and glue. It's gap filling. Gap cleaning, gap filling. Now that's a bit smaller. So let's grab the 1 mil. That's 1.5 mil. And just scrape it down. The other thing you could do is wait until you primed it to see where everything is, and then clean it that way. A lot of, like what people do with their gunpla that they're going to be spending a lot of time and effort on for a display or competition. There you go. And then we can push fit the foot in. And there's the leg. Not bad, not bad. So let's do the other one. So again, I take my parts, separate them out. The leg, the foot. that piece, these pieces here, 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 and then the two pieces for the internal. And let's go ahead and do that again. But we're going to try it slightly differently this time. No, I'm not. It's going to be too hard to read. All right, now the glue's starting to get tacky. So put another little dollop down. Doesn't take much. And grab another toothpick. And if your kit allows for it, you can absolutely use plastic cement to adhere the pieces. Put the pieces together and then come back through with this cyanoacrylate to gap fill. Here's my piece there. So we're using that to align. And then smoosh. And grab our brush. And bloop. Smoothed out. And we'll repeat that with the other part. Just be careful when you're using pincers or pincettes on these little parts. They have a tendency to go flying. Don't give it a whole lot of pressure, just enough to hold it in place. If you push too hard, they could go pinging, and I would not be surprised if we see that happen at some point during this build. I don't think I've had one of these go without a part pinging yet. Come on. Well, that was not as... This is not as fun as the other one. Here we go. And now I've got to do a little bit of repair. had to use my teeth. Bloop. Done. Smoothed out. Not terrible. I think I still prefer the Tamiya. Maybe I'll get a little bit more used to this in the future as I do more. I've been using this stuff for a long time, so it's something I'm familiar with. Okay, and let's check our alignment. This goes like that. And like so. There is a bit of resistance. It looks okay though. Plop, plop, plop. And I will be back in a moment while that dries. Okay. Let's get our other one on. Plop, 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 plop. Bloop, bloop. Yeah, okay. So we can see here on this one may need to trim down this part a little bit to get a more snug and level fit. No, we put them on backwards. Dang it. Wouldn't be one of my builds if I didn't do that. At least once. Now, is there anywhere in here we can reinforce with the cement? We will find out later. Can quickly go through. Parts can go flying with your fingers too, folks. It's not only with the tweezers or pincettes. We'll take you down just a little bit more. Just in case. Now that we've done the first one, have a little bit better idea of what it's going to take for the next. Okay. And again, oriented this way. So you go in like so. Can we pull you out just a tad? Where's my knife? There we are. Way too much. Plop. And plop. There we go. That's nice. Now, make sure we've got you correct. We do. Okay. So far, so good. I think this is a nice looking kit. Is this the correct? This is front. And there is a tab and slot to make sure that you got it oriented correctly. So don't force it. Just like any of these, if you're forcing it, you're doing it wrong. There we go. There's that leg done. So now let's look at these arms. Why did I say end on parts 67, 69, and 74? Well, because we're going to have to stick this to the body. And they can be a break hazard, a stress hazard if you do, but also for painting. They'll get in the way of paints for these if you want to airbrush, possibly for primer as well. So we keep that in mind. And anything else here? No. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put part 72 in first. And it's got a long peg. We may need to trim it down, but we will see. Oh, good. Yep, we're going to trim it down. Okay, because there's a hard stop on the other side of it. And you can use your cutters to do this if you want. I just like to use my file to make sure I don't take too much off. And we'll do both of these as well. We'll go ahead and do a first fit. Looks okay, but I see seams. How are we doing on our CA glue? It's doing all right. Let's go ahead and try that. I'm just giving it a good beat around the whole thing. If I can without making too much of a mess. It's starting to get a little tacky. So we need to be careful. And now, let it get on your fingers. This is why everybody edits, right? There we are. Look at that. Some nice gaps filled, but we still have a gap, so guess what we're going to do? Take more. Just run it along. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now we let that cure. And while we do that, we can put these parts together. 69 and 74. You go like so, and like so. Nope. Okay, so looking at it, there's a longer peg slot and a smaller peg slot here. And I also see two little risers, which are bits of plastic that Bandai put on here to help with leveling, especially for the snap fit. The people who are doing push fits, but they can get in the way of other things, or they can just cause visual, make it look not so smooth and neat. Okay, so here we definitely want to bring this down. So we do that. And I'm bringing it down a fair amount. I'm not super afraid about there being a problem. And then I'm going to come back through here and get these two little guys with my spin blade. You could use a knife if you wanted. You could use sandpaper if you wanted. You could use a combination of all of the above. This is 1000 grit sandpaper that I use just to go through and smooth things out. Now let's try that again. And you are facing this way. You are facing this way. There we go. Whoa, that was lucky. Hit the wall and bounced back onto my desk. That could have been tragic. Keep that in mind. Okay, let's make sure we're properly oriented. And there's some really, really fine details up in here. Like really, really fine. It's crazy. And we are set. Yep, we're set. Good. Let's just look at it just in case. Hands going that way. Boop. There we are. We're oriented correctly. Okay. And then 70 and 71 are, looks like they're oriented like so. Do our dry fit. Two pegs, big and small. Big, small. Yes, and they fit mostly nicely. But I'm going to take my CA this always worries me, guys. It's not as forgiving or flexible as the Tamiya, but it does fill the gaps nicely. I may be done using that for now. I think we're going to go back to the Tamiya. I feel more comfortable with that. And this one has a peg and hole to make sure that you're oriented correctly. Not going to be quite as nice, but I don't want to be making a huge mess and problem. Okay, now this guy is actually a part that goes on the hip. So we're putting that in the torso. Doop. Now let's look at the arms. Why, oh why, are we doing this last again? Because, well, that might be okay. And let's actually try that. There may be an argument to be made to put this part on before these sidearms, because it's kind of a snug fit. And we just use our spin blade to push it down. And this, depending on how you are intending to paint it, what your intended quality goal is, you might not even need to do much gap filling and cleaning in here. Where's my little brush? There we are. But this definitely needs to be sanded down. Filed down, brought down, trimmed down, reduced, whatever we want to call it. I can imagine, though, you guys who are watching this probably are more likely than not fans of this kit, and seeing as how many people have done videos of the painting of this one relative to all the others in the phase. I imagine it's a really popular kit and people might want to take their time and do it right, especially if you're not getting the box with duplicates. Okay, so there we are. Oh, I'm seeing a issue. Look at that. There is a defect on the hand, and I brought it down. I worked on it just a little bit, but that's something you want to clear up before you put the shield on. And I'm going to go ahead and do my cleanup here. And folks, feel free on these videos to zoom around different steps. You don't, as much as I appreciate the view time, and I do, view time is actually more important to me than number of views. I don't know what the algorithm prioritizes, but for me, when I'm doing this to help teach people, view time is the metric I appreciate the most. Because it helps me know that my lessons are being used. And that they're useful. Okay. I guess I didn't get these quite enough. See, folks, this is why I don't often do detail build guides. Going through and cleaning things up while I'm doing the recording. I've already spent 12 hours on this kit. So that was 12 hours on Twitch and by myself getting this prepped. And I was just ready to be done with it. Ready to get it off my list. But now that I've gone this far, I kind of feel the need to see it through. Okay. Now the question is, do I want to put this on the arm now? I don't know. And if the answer is I don't know, then the answer is no. Wait. Because you can always glue it later. It's a lot harder to take glue off. To cut something and have to repair it. Alright, now the gun arm. Always the fun part. Now I did do a little bit of pre-assembly here because this is a small piece that is easily broken and I wanted to get it on the gun to be most secure. But looking at it, it's part 7, part 5. This end goes there, this end goes there. That's pretty easy. And that the fit is nice and snug. So we've got that. And I can't read the Japanese, but wait. Nope, I'm not even going to try. Now there is one thing to consider here. Part 8 is the hand and trigger part, and it's got multiple clips to it. So we need to look at the arm and see how it's going to go together to determine if we want to do that, or if we want to just cut it and slide it in and out. And I think maybe for me, that's the best option, is cutting it and letting it slide in and out. So I'm just going to take my clippers, clip this entire part off here, grab my knife, and just remove that. Now, why did I do this? One, so I can have the gun separate from the arm to be able to paint if I want to, but mostly because looking at the pieces, there are two peg holes here and two of those plastic pieces abut these peg holes, and I can imagine there being problems with glue getting in there. And I don't want to screw up the arm just for something that I could easily modify and glue. So now we're going to go do our usual thing here. Boop, 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 boop. Trim that down. Bring that down. Give it a little bit of a sand to smooth out. Take all the burrs and edges off. And then look at the surface. We'll try a dry fit to see how we do. Big peg, two small pegs, big peg, two small pegs. Ooh, that's got some alignment issues. So I can see I'm actually thinking it would be wise to use CA glue here. And if you're sparing with this, like really only using it where you need to the most, and just putting tiny little drops on your container, you'll be fine. This will last you a long time. The wastage does come in where, because it moves around like paint, it spreads on the surface of the thing it's on. and can be a little bit problematic for in that regard. Okay, but YOLO. And it definitely doesn't lubricate as well as the Tamiya does. We'll see how well that does for gap filling when I come back through. So I'm going to now attach this to the gun after a little minor cleanup. There is a divot here that I wasn't sure if it was part of the design or not. And looks like it might be. So we'll leave it be. Wrist goes towards this end here. It's pretty straightforward, quite literally. Too much. And push. Done. Now we can let that sit and do its thing. So that is 7, 8, 5, 64 into 65. Let's go ahead and get 61 and 68 together. Hopefully it'll go a little bit faster than last time. My goldfish brain does get the better of me at times when I'm doing multiple things and having to talk to people, give guidance, and do a physical task, make sure things are oriented in the proper way. Okay. Oh, again, clean this up. These spin blades are a little expensive, but they are definitely a worthwhile investment if you're going to get into artifacts seriously. They're very, very good for cleaning these parts up. Okay. So facing this direction and this direction. Big tab, big slot. How do we look? Pretty good. Okay. Here we go. And unlike last time, I'm going to go ahead and put this on now. And just out of principle, bring this down just a bit. Not too much, since that's what's going to hold that piece on. But check first, do you have any details that need to be sanded down? Anything that needs to be cleaned up before you put this on and can't go back? Make sure you're in good shape. Grab my spin blade and push. Ooh, that's rougher than I would like. Will a little bit of glue do you? Yep, that was enough. Little dab of cement helped lubricate it and get some glue splooge to fill in the gap. Okay. Now that cures. Again, you go in the torso. You go in there. You go in there. We'll leave you out just for the look. That's the one problem. This does now require glue. So, and it's not going to stay oriented because I cut those pegs off. But hey, we're in okay shape. That's more than easy to fit permanently. That looks all right. Not bad, not bad. And looking at our two parts, you see one has two pegs and the other has a peg and a hole and a little riser. This isn't the double O riser, it's just a riser. I already built the double O riser. And we look at our arm, see, okay. Pegs, peg hole, and that fits. Okay, nice. Let's go ahead and put that on. I was listening to some Macross earlier, and I have the opening theme in my head. So I may be humming it unconsciously. Apologize if that bothers you. Yeah, some of these, we get the curse of the ABS. Thankfully, that's going up against the body. We don't have to worry about it too much. And in we go. That arm is done. And it's only taken me an hour and 15 minutes to get these 4 done. That's pretty good. We might be able to get this whole build done in one video. Alright, now the torso. And I wonder if I could figure out a way to get timestamps. Torso. I've never tried that. Okay, head piece, head piece, little bitty teeny tiny. Go in there. Head piece, little bitty teeny tiny. Go in there. It's just on a plain round peg. So we don't need to worry about any shenanigans while putting this together. And also these can go there. So what do we have here? We have part 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 3, 9, and 4. So there's 4. There is 9. There's 15. 3. 14. The single peg looks like it goes forward. 11. 11. 12. 10. So first thing, let's go ahead and put 11 and 12 together. It also has a peg divot, and it's just the other half of the torso. Ooh, that's yucky. Better. Okay. Make a little bit of room for the cement. And push. Not bad. We'll put just a little bead of it around the bottom here. And try 10. Now I think I have already reduced these pegs. Okay, so there's a big peg up top on either side and a small peg down below. Big and small. Pretty easy alignment, I think. Maybe. This is why we dry fit, folks. Something doesn't feel right. Let's look at the other piece. Okay, that's what was weird. So this middle part was making me feel a little bit off, but we have 2/2 of the hole for the neck going right there. That helps to line it up. And this is all going to get covered by these parts. Okay, That makes me feel a little bit better. But I'm going to bring these pegs down just ever so slightly with some sandpaper and hit the edges of this. It's not sitting as flush as I would like, so just giving it a touch of the sandpaper to get any little weird inconsistencies out of the way. I'm only doing it on the pegs at the moment because I want it to only attach to this piece. We're going to put a little bit less cement over here. And then run our bead down there. Make sure that the neck is nice and clean. There we go. And that's pretty much that. Those 4 pieces together. Now let's look at 15 and 3. I had originally thought that perhaps this would need some CA glue. We'll take a look again and see what we think. Oh, that needs to be smoothed out. And if you get an old brush that's essentially dyed, you can cut it off and save yourself a whole lot of trouble with the sandpaper by cleaning this dust out. Rather than replacing it all the time when it doesn't need to be. Okay, that's good enough. 2 pegs, 2 slots. Circle goes up. I'm going to bring those pegs down just a little bit more. Now we look at an hour and 24. Alright folks who have made it this far, this is going to be a long one. I'm going to go all the way, get this one done. And I want it off my desk. So please bear with me, or pause and stop and come back later. I really do need to figure out how to do timestamps. That's as good as we're going to get. We're not going to the GBWC with this one, folks. Now let's think about this for a second here. D-shaped peg, D-shaped hole. All right, we're going to do a slight change of build order. No, we're not. Let me put this together and think about it for a second. We may do that, we may not. So what I'm considering is the amount of stress it's going to take to get these parts in versus getting this put and then putting that on. I think we're going to leave the legs off. Now we have, again, a subassembly potential. So think about this for a moment. If the legs are there, they're going to get in the way. And if these are on, it's going to get in the way of the back of this. Let's dry fit and see what it looks like. You're the back. Yes, you're the back. Okay. Okay. That's gross. Well, first off, this part needs a lot of cleaning. I don't like how they're doing these smaller pegs for these hip armor pieces, but I have to admit it is much better than previous design. This is correct. Like this. Okay, well, we may have an option here, folks. That's not too bad. That allows pretty good access. You can spray if you have a air rifle, airbrush. That's a snug fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and glue this on. And then look at this. Is there anything that needs to be cleaned up? Yes. That didn't get cleaned as well as I would have liked. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and glue these puppies on too. And then carefully make sure I don't get them out of alignment. There we go. So there's one piece. I'm going to leave these separate. We can go back now and put this chest piece here, like so, I think. Or do I need to put you on first? One and then two in the back. See, now this is where things get a little silly. What are you for? Am I missing a piece? No. You're for you. Okay. You're the back. And you're the front. And of course, like all backs and fronts, there's alignment issue. There's an alignment issue here, so we got to clean that up a bit. And think about this. Okay, we're going to put this together now. There's a tab on this peg that keeps you in alignment, just like a lot of other things. And then we're also going to put a little bit of glue, cement, on this to hold them together. There. Okay. And I'm going to trim this down a little. And same with the front and back. Going to shorten these pegs a touch. And the same with this big piece here. And I'm going to hit this with the sandpaper a little bit. Want to make sure we're even, that's important. Or there are no little burrs sticking out. Okay. So liberally getting the pegs and the upper part of this, because that helps hold this whole thing together. Plenty of glue splooge. And we're even going to put a little bit here on the shoulder parts. And if you haven't already, now is the time to scribe this out. And there's a clean I didn't do. Did I? Did I not? I may have neglected this piece. Definitely want to get this cleaned out. There's a mold defect. Not really a defect, just a circle, a mold divot. In there, and it gets unsightly. And this is why I said these spin blades are invaluable. Okay, now we're going to I don't want to take the time on stream. Not stream. I've been over on Twitch a lot lately, so I'm used to saying stream and not this video. I do most of my hobby work, painting, prepping, building, if it's not a guide like this, over on Twitch. Make sure to check that out. It's in the description or on the main channel page here. Yeah, YouTube generally just doesn't like having these really long videos because I'm probably saying this to myself alone and nobody watching, but generally, people get like 10 minutes into this, think it's something other than it is, and stop watching. Okay, now we're going to give this a test. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to even this out real quick. So I was watching Zumikito, I think that's Zumikito, I think it's Zumikito, the painter guy, and he finally he's been doing some video series that are really good for beginners, and he brought up the fact that pro painters, people who do really high quality painting videos, folks like him, can be part of quote unquote the problem. Because you have to make a 10-minute video, so you can only show a little tiny bit, and you've got to speed it up. So it looks like you're getting 80 to 100 hours of work if you're doing high level painting much, much, much faster than you actually are. And it gives a lot of people a false impression of their own scale, of the time it actually takes to do painting at that level. Kind of like me in this, showing just how long it actually does take and saying, yeah, this was 15 hours of preparation before I even started building. So now we're at almost 17 hours of work on this single little model, which is great value for the money. I mean, if you can really take your time and enjoy the process, then heck yeah, you're getting tons of value out of it. But if you don't like the process, don't like the detail building, well, one, you don't really need to do it. But for me, for a kid I can only get once a year and probably only get one or two of in that time, it almost seems sacrilegious to not give it your all. Okay, that's done. That's done. Now we go back to here, and this, there's a tab here, tab here. This slots into here, and this slots into down here, and that's where the legs go. So we're going to give this a good dollop of glue, and the same with this. Just to make sure they really do, and we're going to bring that down just a bit, just in case. Just a little bit. And in. Okay, put the bottom in first just a bit, and then push. And then you can go ahead and put your little bead, Ooh, that was not a little bead. Well, thank God that was on the inside there. And now we're going to let that rest. Same with that. And I'm not putting it in there because it's got active glue and the head's there. So we have accomplished both of these steps in a different order. I've chosen to keep the upper part of the torso and the lower part of the torso separate. I put part 13 on part 15 before this step. Because we can now just plop the torso in. And it still gives us time to clean things up, do a bit of scribing that we may have missed, whatever. This is a good part to paint. Put it on your little stick. There you go. And the same thing here. You can put a dowel down in there, paint it all, put a dowel up in there or whatever, put a clippy here, and have good access with this airbrush. You can clean things up, and most especially letting the bond between these two hip pieces and this back piece really secure. Alright, now let me get a little bit of water. These guys, they're going to be tricky. So there aren't many small pieces in here. The only ones that are potentially of concern are 25 and 26. These, but for piston parts, they're pretty robust. So they're faced out like that. Okay. This is part 17. I don't believe there's any significant difference between these two parts. They're pretty much identical. There's no detail anywhere on them. Is there any difference in the pegs? No, they look identical. We're gonna, like always, bring the peg down. Hour and 49 minutes. We're doing pretty good. This is kind of a rush job. I do hope that you are taking your time, going part by part, and enjoying the process. Okay, so order of operations here. We get this part, and this part. We'll look at them. They are also identical. 27 or 28, I believe, are identical. Yes, they are. '21, '22 are also identical. We're getting lucky, folks. And then part 19. Here we go. Trim this down. But not too much. Just in case. Because it looks like there might be a couple pieces that this peg is attached to. Phil, what did you not do? What the heck, dude? Did you not clean these parts? I may not have cleaned these parts, folks. That'd be funny. No, I just missed that part. Okay. So, first step is to put 31 into 17. Second step is to put 28 into 31. The third step is to put 19 into 17. I think I can see the logic in that. Let's try it. Oh boy. We're getting the big file out for this one. And we're actually going to use the spin blade for its intended purpose. This is the 2.5 mil. There we go. Try this again. Much better. Much, much better. And there are two little spacers up here, of course. Sand them down. All right. And let the capillary action fly. There we go. Very nice. Now the next step is this part. It's a D, it's almost a D, but there's a little riser in there. Not anymore. I know I may seem obsessive about cutting down the risers and sanding down these pegs. That's just 26 plus artifact builds ahead of this, telling me, nope, you really wanna make sure that you've got that set if you're gonna be gluing it. Here we go. A lot of these spacers are in here for keeping the push fit parts in alignment. They just get in the way if you're gluing. Okay, 22. Let's see, maybe 22 should go on later. No, that's not too bad, but that needs some touching up. So I clearly did not spend as much time on these parts yesterday as I thought I did. I will be glad. We're almost there, though. We're almost there. And you folks, if you've made it this far, please don't forget to subscribe. I would really like your comments, too. Comments are my biggest motivation. I do this to teach people and to help them. But sometimes I feel like I'm just talking into the wind. So what about this was useful for you? What about it was not? I can't exactly change what I'm doing because they're almost over. This is the last recording for this series. Okay, 3. But I can take it to mind for the next times. Oh, that was not fun. Okay. Make sure these parts 31, 21 have cured and are solid on here before you put part 19 in. And it's snug enough that I know I'm not going to get it out. So we're getting cemented. Push them all, give them a really good squeeze. There's the outside of it. That looks neater than the inside. Thank goodness. We'll see if I decide I need to gap fill that. And then part 24 goes up like so. I'm getting a little careless, guys. I can feel it. I should not be gluing this right now. I'm trusting to myself that I did what I was supposed to earlier and prepped it, which I did, thankfully, but that's always a risk. And sometimes those risks mean you have to do some gap filling and fixing. So, there. Now, what? Then we've got parts 30 and 26. So looking at part 30, this little guy goes down and this part goes up. And goes into there. And just to be safe, I'm going to give this a scrape, and I'm glad I am, because I'm feeling inconsistencies. Give this a little bit more sandpaper. Every once in a while I think, you know what, maybe I could make a living. No, maybe I could spend all day assembling models if people wanted to pay me a reasonable amount to assemble these things. But then I sit here at my desk for 2.5 hours and I'm like, my back, ugh. Maybe I couldn't. But maybe I could if people paid me enough. Okay. There's not really much of an option here. Kind of have to YOLO it. Yikes. That is not a good fit. And this isn't a peg issue. This is this section here. Well, this entire area here would need to be sanded down to make it fit there. Well, it's bound to happen on one of these. I guess that was the time. So that. Oh, and then this little guy goes here. Why did they put these here? This is a bad location for these little divots, folks. That's really visible. This is something you're definitely going to want to clean off. Otherwise, if you paint it, you're going to see the little mold circles. Okay. Mm-hmm. Done. Alright, let's see if we can maybe make this other one a bit faster, okay? Just kind of speed through it if I can. I think this is 600 grit, maybe 800. Kind of been started using higher grit stuff lately. I used to use 600 a lot, but now I think I've started using 800 and 1,000 more. Even 3,000 in some cases. Where's my toothbrush? It's going to be fun to ink this though. Oh my goodness. So many great panel lines on these. Maybe I'll just leave this one inked, because I don't like it enough to put it on the table. But it's definitely got some cool weapons. Do-do-do. I could probably even use the bigger one. Forgot about those spacers. Ah! Come here. Let's go. Hurry up. Boop, doo, doo, doo. Here we are. Okay. Hey guys, please don't rush your builds like I'm doing. Please. If I didn't have to get this thing done in a reasonable amount of time, I would be going much slower. But analytics have clearly shown that people don't want to watch 10-hour series or a series of 10 1-hour videos of me building these things. I've got 2 of them up here on YouTube, and the analytics show no. That's not what people are looking for. So I think 2.5 hours is probably going to be the max. So we've got 15 minutes left. I wonder if I can get music on here or something. But I'll be honest, with all the other ones not having it, I know it would improve video quality, but just having one out of all the others have something like music, that amount of inconsistency gets to me. I like to have a consistent product. Yep, and here's this. Yeah, this is the side where we've got a gap. Okay. Oh well. Such is life. Okay. Okay. Okay, okay. And you go here. Now, honestly, if you're still watching this, I made such a big deal to myself of doing this as the detail build. And here I am just slapping pieces together now. I'm not sure I like it. Probably just because this was not the one I had wanted. If I was going to do a detail build, this was the last one that I really wanted to do it on. I would have much rather done it on the O. Or the Zaku cannon. Definitely not the silver bullet suppressor. Not that 91 piece horror show. But I'm gonna do one eventually. Do a display quality build in my own time. Okay, that's done. Let's put it all together, folks. Right arm, right leg. Oh, nice of them to make a D-clamp. Or D-clamp. D-slot. Yep, that's a part you don't want to put on. That's a stress risk right there. Stress and break risk. Oh, okay, folks. This central part. Ooh, there's no other connection to the body except here. So reinforce that. Reinforce that. Or just be really, 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 really careful. forget it. Forget about it, guys. We're going all the way. We're just going to put it all together. And it would probably be wise of you, unlike me, to wait for the cement to cure on the torso before putting the legs on, because it's kind of wobbly. And I think CA glue is going to be your friend. I'm glad I scribed this earlier. Now, you, my little munchkin, where's your sibling? Did you go? Please tell me. There you are. I've got a feeling this torso is going to come off. Is it even attached? Well, that's that. Let's take a second. Do a little bit of cleanup on this head. Where's mine? There's my knife. So I got asked in stream the other day if I had ever used one of those microscopes with a camera on it to build one of these things. I'm like, no, I've never used one for that, but I use it all the time at a past job. It's just a dissecting microscope. I'll tell you though, these things have made a world of difference in being able to see, as they should, since that's their job. But I forgot that I had them for most of these builds. And now when I go back through to do the ones that I, glue up the ones that I have done in the past, or cleaning up kits that I have, like the stuff I've already done for Phase 5, so I can get it ready for paint. I will be using those for sure. Doop. Alright, now that's curing. Let's do a little bit of cleanup here. And be careful if you're using these spin blades for the first time. They're very sharp and can very easily you can overshoot what you're trying to accomplish. What are we at? 229. And look at that, folks. 2.5 hours. No, I can't get the head on. Well, let's see, where's my... Oh, that was lucky. Just the right size. Hey! 2.5 hours on the dot. Dang Skippy, folks, look at that. Alright, we're going to let this cure, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back, do a little bit of cleaning up, ink it, let it sit overnight, get it into a state similar to this for the thumbnail, take a picture, and upload this. So thank you very, very much for coming to hang out with me and Mac and the friends, plus our new friend, for this long, long, long build. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all the YouTube stuff, but you're probably already gone. If you're seeing the end of this, please visit me over at Twitch as well, where you can see more of this stuff live and in about this level of format. Remember, folks, that this is a hobby. If it doesn't bring you joy, don't do it. I've been Phil, the Miniature Model Maker. Be good to yourselves, okay? Bye-bye.